Part 2, my fourth video in the series with regard to 2026 and what's upcoming in part 2 of the actual astrology. And today I want to look at the main themes that we're likely to experience this year and we need to be aware of, what we can work with. There are 3 important sign changes this year: Saturn, Neptune and Uranus. Now, all 3 entered new signs last year, then retrograded back into the previous signs again, and have been traveling forwards again. All 3 will re-enter the signs this year that they first entered last year. So there's more on that in part 1. If you want the dates that they change signs and retrograded and things, please go back to part 1. Today, I want to look mainly at the influence of Saturn and Neptune and their sign change. They both enter the same sign for the rest of the year. So they're giving us a double dose, if you like, of energies. They both change signs within 3 weeks of one another and then meet at possibly the most potent and influential point of the chart. So together they create the foundational energies for the year, almost like the background, the programming that's going to be running in the background. So last year they both dipped into Aries briefly, and a retrograde cycle took them back into Pisces, where we've been experiencing their kind assistance to clear old karma, offering the opportunity to step off the karmic wheel. So as I record there, Neptune actually re-entered Aries last night, 26th January, and Saturn is currently at 28 degrees, so it's nearing the end of Pisces again. And it will re-enter Aries on the 14th of February. Saturn will come to the last degree, 29 degrees of Pisces, on the 31st of January. So this is the potent last degree of the zodiac, where we have that final hit of the karmic energy. The 31st of January to the 14th of February, those 2 weeks is when it's going to be. We will experience its energies most strongly before it again moves into Aries. So those 2 dates when Neptune and Saturn, when they both enter Aries, are only 19 days apart, less than 3 weeks. So they're going to bring about a big change in energies overall. It's a very short time between the 2. And one thing to bear in mind that a sign change does always bring is the elemental balance change. So these 2 are going from water to fire. So we're going to have more of those fiery energies ongoing. So we're going to be 2 less water, 2 more fire. Fire energies is going to be more about being, experiencing. Aries is cardinal fire, that's initiating, beginning something off. It's a fire of action and doing. The most important thing to remember here is that 0 degrees of Aries, when they enter that sign, is the beginning of the zodiac, the point of birth and of rebirth. Every year we have a rebirth, and as the sun enters Aries at the spring equinox. Both of these slower outer planets entering this sign and then meeting at 0 degrees on the 20th February are significant times. We are being reborn. This is a spiritual rebirth, the birth of a new cycle of growth, personally and collectively. So the important dates are 26th of January, Neptune into Aries, 31st of January, Saturn reaches 29 degrees of Pisces. 14th of February, Saturn enters Aries. 20th of February, Saturn and Neptune meet at 0 degrees of Aries, and then Saturn goes ahead. And they will stay at 0 degrees. So 23rd of February, Saturn reaches 1 degree. 28th of February, the very last day of February, Neptune reaches 1 degree. So we have that influence of 0 degrees Aries from the minute that Neptune enters it until they both reach 1 degree. So that's actually from the 26th of January through to the 28th of February. So you can see this is quite an important calendar month. So February is a very significant month with regard to the astrology. We're currently, one description is in a cocoon, awaiting that rebirth as a butterfly, being reborn then. And this is sparked at the February new moon, which is also a ringed solar eclipse, and also the Chinese New Year, which takes us into the fire horse, and this is on the 17th of February. So the fire horse, that's also giving us fire energy and that sense of that forward momentum. So to make sense of this, let's start looking at the individual components that we've got. Let's look first at Aries. So Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. Cardinal fire, as I said, initiating, getting things going, to do with action. It's ruled by Mars, the warrior planet, and the masculine archetype of the chart. So you get a lot of masculine traits showing through Aries. So if I run through keywords for the sign: ardent, assertive, challenging, impulsive, courageous, positive, in the moment, rash, quick, energetic, feisty, selfish, brisk, competitive, initiating, fearless, aggressive, impatient, driven, independent, self-reliant, active, spontaneous, entrepreneurial, leader, now oriented, truthful, enthusiastic, instinct driven, anger, primal survival instinct, simplicity. And this is where we would use the phrase I am. So I am is also, as a lot of you will know in the spiritual side, is connected with the soul essence. So this is where we find and can embrace, fully embrace I am. So let's get a sense of how they might manifest in everyday life. What might we spot as an Aries energy? Well, as I said, very independent and self-reliant. One thing is they, when we've got this energy, there's a feeling that they should be able to do things themselves. So sometimes they don't ask for help when they need it. Courageous, often fearless, like speed and action. So everything, when it is done, can be done very quickly. You know, they can be fast drivers very quickly, and can be very decisive with that speed and act on instinct. And if you were to give Aries a choice of options, you'll probably find that they quickly choose, got that ability to decide very quickly if it aligns with them. Are often entrepreneurs. They, as well as being initiators, they're natural leaders, and are very often self-employed. So self-employment actually suits them, although they often have to learn to delegate and ask for help, because again, that thing about feeling they should be able to do things on their own. And it's good for them to learn to ask for help and to accept that doing so is not a sign of weakness. So that independent nature doesn't want to be helped. It's one thing to remember very much. It's the energy of a sprinter rather than a long distance runner. So the energy can, with that spontaneity, it rises to the surface really quickly. When an idea and enthusiasm spontaneously comes, the energy can drop off again really quickly. So it can be short, sharp bursts of speed sometimes. And it's very important to find a way to keep the energy and the enthusiasm going. And I'll be speaking a little bit more about how that's actually going to be helped this time. So this quick to rise energy, they can also be quick to anger, as anger was one of the key words with Mars. But they can be quick to anger, and they're equally quick to forget and move on. They're very good at being in the moment. So it's like something will come up, or might even come into the mind, and it's no sooner in the mind than it's spoken very quickly out. So it can be, just responding very quickly and almost like and angrily in answer to something, but they've forgotten about it and they move straight on. Look before you leap is a good saying for Aries to take on board. Because of that rashness, they don't necessarily think about the consequences, and as soon as something comes up, to say they can be gone with it. Truth and simplicity are very important to them, and they therefore do not suffer fools or liars. They can see through lies very, very well often. That phrasing, not suffering fools gladly, is definitely would apply to Aries. So Mars gives masculine archetype, gives an emphasis on male characteristics such as assertiveness, aggression, competitiveness, doing battle, and they are often karmic energies around balancing male and female energies, regardless of what body or sexuality. So I'm describing obviously what an Aries sun would be, but you get a feel that from that, hopefully, of the characteristics and some of the things with this double dose of Aries energy coming in through Saturn Neptune, we're going to get some of these characteristics we're going to start spotting coming up for ourselves and in other people. So being the first sign of the zodiac, Aries represents that moment of birth, the newborn infant. And there is a way that you can go around the chart, the 12 signs, and relate it to a child being born at Aries and going through the signs. So a newborn infant, all they really aware of are their own needs. And this is where sometimes Aries can get the selfish label. And then whilst there can be a selfish element if it's not expressed well, often what they're just doing is just what they need to do. And they're just focused in the moment and what they know that they need to do and what's almost like what's in front of them, and other people or things they're outside of that zone, they're not necessarily seen. So they're not necessarily ignoring you, but just you're just not within their radar at that moment. And as I said, they are very much in the moment, just dealing with what is in front of them, and therefore are often firefighters. And I don't mean from the professional point of view, they might well be, but I mean from the point of view of what is the most urgent thing today. With Aries energy, we're learning about the self, as I said, the I am. And if we just briefly bring in the opposite side of Libra, which is always activated at the full moon, Libra connects, ruled by Venus, which is the feminine archetype. So particularly interesting with this axis that you've got Mars on one side and Venus on the other. This is where you get the masculine and feminine balance, which is why it's and always helpful to look at Aries and Libra together as a sort of balancing act, if you like. So Libra connects, and it can feel that it actually needs another person to balance out its scales, and it can lose itself in another person. It can lose itself by compromising itself, be afraid to upset others, always wanting to balance those scales out, keep those scales balanced, have the harmony and the peace. So it can get quiet, doesn't want to upset that peace. So you can see the contrast here between the two. When we're looking at opposites, ideally we're talking about blending the energies of the two, meeting with their strengths in the middle. So Aries learns about itself and can learn the art of compromise, from which is a Libra strength, and then take itself into connections, into relationships with others without losing itself. That's learning about yourself. What is important to you? And then when they connect with others, they're not going to lose themselves. This is where Libra can learn from Aries. And this sense of not losing ourselves, knowing who we are, is absolutely vitally important this year as we begin this new cycle. So if we say, I am, what comes up afterwards, it sort of raises the question, we can say, well, who am I? And Aries can help us to discover who we are, because they're not taking that outside influence into account. We can look at our true essence and think of the purity of a newborn baby. It hasn't got those outside influences. It hasn't learnt programming and conditioning yet. It hasn't taken it on yet. That instinctual element, Aries just know. They just know. It's just there. They're just very, very good, strong instincts. Won't know how they know. They just know, something just comes to them. It is very much a sort of inner feeling. So that's a few sort of key energy about Aries to bear in mind. So that's the sign that Saturn and Neptune are going to be going into. These are the energies that Saturn and Neptune are going to be working through, going to be working with. So let's look at keywords for Saturn and Neptune to give you a feel of their energies. And I'm just going to rattle off quite a long list for each. And what I encourage you to do is, if you're making notes, put your pen and paper down for a minute and just listen and get the feel of these. So you get see if you get a sense of how they work, because I want to do the two one after the other, and I want you to see if you can feel not only the energy of Saturn on its own, not only the sense of Neptune on its own, but a contrast if you see sort of similarities or contrasts between the two. So Saturn, structure, framework, routines and habits, mundane life, authority, rules and regulations, right and wrong, responsibility, limiting, restricting, pessimism, depression, fear, conservative, cold, unemotional, hardworking, sensible, organized, serious, realistic, it gives us a reality check, prudent, the teacher, wisdom, mastery, ancestors, the wisdom of the elders, family history and customs, teeth, bones and skeleton in terms of the body, should, the word should, entitlement and time. Onto Neptune, romantic, idealistic, imaginative, creative, psychic, spiritual universe, divine connection, daydreaming, nebulous, fantasy, naive, unrealistic, deception, lack of truth, inspiration, compassion, empathy, escapism, addiction, oneness, disillusionment, boundaries, particularly lack of boundaries, guilt, forgiveness, kindness, water vapor or mist, unobtainable longing, nostalgia, hopelessness and helplessness, despair, suffering. Quite a long list there for Neptune. I think it's the longest list I've got, as I've got for Pisces, that it rules, and I do seem to keep adding them. It's that intangible, nebulous energy. So hopefully you picked up a sense of them individually there. And there's a couple of things to consider here. Firstly, we've got Neptune in Aries. We've got Saturn in Aries. So they're working individually. But we also need to look at their combined energies. How do they get along? Because why might we be getting both in the same sign at the same moment in time? It's obviously no coincidence. That's the basis of solar astrology. We will have for the rest of the year both of them in Aries. So we need to look at how they might work together or how they might not work together, what they will bring individually and combined. And what we might be getting together at the same time is really important due to their meeting on the 20th of February, as I say, Saturn crossing over Neptune and taking the lead. And not only are they activating 0 degrees of Aries when they do that, they are actually activating each other, the potential of both at that degree. So it's like they're switching each other on. They're switching on potential for all of us at that point. And it really is a absolutely vital, not only rebirth, it's a point of initiation is quite often a word that's used about this. So in many ways, these two, Saturn and Neptune, seem incompatible. We're dealing with spiritual versus mundane. I was saying Neptune and Saturn, this is the order that I've done them in. Spiritual versus mundane, boundarylessness versus limitation, unrealistic versus realistic, compassion and empathy versus what is often a cold, uncaring, unemotional nature. And Saturn, Capricorn, that rules, would be the epitome of, the stiff upper lip, get on with it, don't let emotion come in, when something difficult happens. Whilst Neptune's sensitivity can become feeling everything, and therefore, being overly sensitive and falling into suffering and despair. So how is it going to work with both of these in the same sign? Now, having read that, it might actually surprise you to know that I actually like a combination of these two. When their energies are working together, I really like seeing when there's something in the chart where we've got a chart to blend their strengths. So when they're working well together, I think everything in your life can come together and work much better. As souls having a human experience, we need both sides. We need the mundane and the spiritual. We need to blend them, not for them to be separate. We want to be able to live a spiritual life every day. I don't know if any the rest of you are, but I'm currently following Walk for Peace with the monks walking across America. And they're giving us a wonderful reminder that we have to choose love, peace, and mindfulness every day. We have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, although they are walking the walk and they are talking the talk. It's about embodying, expressing, being our true spiritual nature, living our spiritual mission. It's not just an idea and a concept. If we want to live our highest lives, if we want to raise our vibration, we have to live more of a spiritual life every day in all, we talk about mind, body, spirit. All these parts of ourselves need to come into alignment. Our soul intention, our soul mission is represented by Neptune here. Our spiritual connection, ideas, creative ideas, the imagination, these are all Neptunian ideas. And any object, any venture, idea, item, a dream begins with an idea in the imagination. So, if I pick up my glasses, my scarf, the computer screen I'm looking at, the camera, all these have started with an idea in someone's mind, but they remain a dream or an aspiration if it doesn't get birthed into reality. Has to come out of the ether and find a way to be manifested on earth, to blend with earthly practicalities and abilities to make something, to physically create something. Without being birthed, it just remains as an idea. So you could think here of the archetype of an inventor. They come up with lots of ideas which are not always practical, and they often need someone who can help to bring them into existence. Otherwise, they're just very good ideas. And again, a lot of inventors have lots of ideas, but they aren't always practical or very grounded. So Saturn is where Saturn can help to ground and bring the ideas, the imagination, the dreams, the spiritual connection, can help to bring it into physicality, into our everyday lives, bring that practicality and that physicality in to manifest them. Saturn's very good at manifesting, making things happen. So the blending of Saturn and Neptune brings us both worlds and the ability to birth our dreams, and so we can begin to be of the highest service. So a positive blend of the mundane and spiritual means that we can live a spiritual life every day. So we've looked at Aries, Saturn, and Neptune individually. Now it's time to blend them and see the themes for the year. So to recap, Aries, the self, I am, discovering who we are, what is of value to us, what is important to us, instincts, courage, fearlessness, being in the present, instinctual, and just knowing. Saturn, bringing in tradition, customs, mundane life on this planet, structure and organization, building something step by step, wisdom and mastery, authority. Neptune, our spiritual life, our spiritual mission, our spiritual connection, empathy, compassion, imagination, truth or lack of truth. Healing is often where we see Neptune as well. So let me show you a couple of images. I wanted to create one that showed the true essence of Aries, shining its light out into the world. I actually saw it as sort of beams of energy of golden fire beams coming out from the body. Didn't quite come out that way. And this isn't exactly what I had in mind, but if you have a look at this, I actually love that because I love that the energy is radiating out from the heart. Got the fire energy in the background, and then adding in the keywords. So we've got inner truth, inner knowing, self-mastery, self-authority. So combining the words, the planets and signs, self-mastery, self-authority, inner truth, inner knowing. So self and inner relating to Aries are prefixes that could be combined with a lot of the other words. Sometimes they're interchangeable, sometimes just self and sometimes just inner. So keep those at the forefront of your mind and play around with those. And it's about bringing the energy back to ourselves. It's about ignoring outside influences, what the old energies represented by Saturn of the family, etc. What we were told we should do. Remember, should was in that list of Saturn words. What we should do, very Saturnian, what we feel we should do. If we think or feel we should, it's not really aligned with us, is it? It's not really what we want to do. So it's not being authentic, it's not being true to us. And it can be what is expected as what will keep the peace. So not doing this, I'm talking about not doing what we were told we should do, what was or has been expected of us, what will keep the peace, what keeps us small, or what pleases others. Bring it back to yourself. It's really important. And it's with the influence of Saturn, these ancestral energies and influences, customs, conditioning is the word. We're conditioned as children with expectations. Saturn would lead us to do more of what we should do, what is expected, family patterns. Sometimes you see it in big ways, something like repeated occupations, or our family, if they've always been dentists, or we've always worked in this sort of field, and people just automatically follow it for various reasons, doing what others want. These things are not what is authentic to us. So we can tap into the wisdom of the experiences and of the ancestors. And if we, instead of having that negative influence of the ancestors, is what I'm saying, we tap into the wisdom of those experiences and our own experiences. It can help that gives us information, and that's where wisdom forms mastery. And with the influence of Aries and bringing it into the self, this is where we get self-mastery. Simplicity is something to remember. I mentioned the Aries keywords. Things need to be simple and truthful. Aries can't have it any other way. And you might find with the influence that you may even find it last year. I certainly went through a phase where I was doing a lot of decluttering on a level I'd never done before. And with that Aries influence, I was being really, really decisive. I was just so determined to simplify things. And I look at something, no, don't need that anymore. No, that's going. No, yeah, I'll keep that. I need that. I was very quickly deciding and could very easily take those things out. So you might find that degree of that coming in, simplifying all the aspects of our life. What do we really need in this moment when we start stepping into our higher truth, stepping into our soul mission and doing what's right for us? keep it simple would be something to bear in mind. And the Aries energies that simplifying life, the simplicity, truth. There's a no frills energy about this. This is how it is. There's no need for extras or add-ons, if you like, for frills. Also, what is really important to feel into this is what this is really about is doing what is aligned with us and with our inner knowing who we truly are. So we're talking about a vocation rather than a work. And with the rebirth, it's about our spiritual calling, our soul intentions in this lifetime, our spiritual mastery, what we came to do. What we came to do, it's starting, it's beginning. And last year, we sowed the seeds, and I was encouraging on some of the videos I did last year, I was encouraging everyone to start dreaming of this as we sort of dipped our toe in the water of these energies. I was saying start dreaming of what you want to do, start sort of beginning to almost manifest it, to feel it, to be able to step into it. Dream what you would really, truly love to do. Aries brings enthusiasm and passion. Find in your heart what you are truly passionate about. Or how do you want to make a difference in the world? What do you speak passionately about? What do you feel strongly about? This is where we need to go, and this is what we need to embrace. So let's just look a little bit more into those themes that I gave. So inner truth and inner knowing, similar but not quite the same. And because we've got that element with the inner knowing, is that I'm talking about that Aries just sensing and just knowing within yourself. And truth is something that you feel within yourself. And with both of these, the key word that I would give would be trust. Learning to trust those feelings, learning to trust how we feel those, how we perceive them. That instinct is felt. It's an inner thing, not we're getting out of the head, is what I'm trying to say. You see, I was feeling it and I couldn't actually form the words to describe it because I was actually feeling it and I was actually in that moment trusting it. That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. So Neptune in Pisces, when it was in its own sign, when it was in Pisces, that is its own sign, that contributed for the last 14 years, a gradual increase, and it strongly contributed to the mists of uncertainty. We noticed how themes, particularly in the last years, both Neptune and Saturn have got to the last degrees of Pisces again, lies, deceit, speculations. The truth can be hard to discern, to really ascertain. But now going into the Aries energy, by going inside, feeling what resonates with us, what is our inner truth, that is where the truth lies. That's how we ascertain what is truthful or not by what's, taking the outside influences or looking at what is presented to us, but we will feel it more and more within ourselves. So we need to cultivate that inner knowing, those instincts, and as I say, learn to trust them. And we will be, the more and more we do that and realize that we're on the right track and we trust our inner knowing, that inner truth, what we feel, our instincts, we will be able to see past the smoke and mirrors, etc. And this will also be important just to bring in Uranus, which I said was the third planet that's changing signs this year. When it does go back into Gemini, which is the sign of the mind and communication, and Uranus rules technology. So it's going to be connecting with Pluto later as well. And whilst they can work well together, they're both going to be in air signs, and they are going to be increasing the speed and the influence of AI. So again, it's going to become increasingly important to be able to have a degree of discernment. What is real, and how can we really tell what is real? Again, so this is where we need to cultivate that inner knowing and sense of inner truth. One contrast that we've got with these energies is the fear of Saturn and the courage of Aries. You know, if you spotted those two contrasting words, courageous Aries, very little fear. Fear is very much a Saturn word. And combining them, we can gain this inner knowing of the courage of Aries, the inner knowing and confidence of what is aligned with us. So it's going to help us to see through the BS and go, no, this isn't right. And also knowing when to fight our battles, which battles to fight. So injustices is like Aries, because it's so much aligned with the truth, really hates injustices. So it would be important to learn, we can learn which battles are the ones to fight, but not fighting fire with fire, which is the negative side of the masculine energy. So Saturn can actually help to temper that rashness of Aries that can react very quickly. And that sprinter energy that I was saying that can be fueled by enthusiasm, spontaneous, the fire is quick to ignite and then can fizzle out very quickly. But if we bring Saturn's strength of its long-term strategy and its steady incremental application, if you combine those two, they can really help us to build something that is on solid foundations. Don't get me wrong, there will be speed. Things are going to speed up, increasingly move faster. However, this is about combining enthusiasm and passion with a longer term objective for a longer time, so we can keep it going and not just have that flash and go, oh, this is really interesting, and it's gone again. Keep it going, gradually build it into something. So another of those key themes I put was self-authority. So we have given our energy, our power away to outer authority for millennia. This has been programmed into us and fed by fear. This is what outer authority does. They lead us through fear to rely on them to set the boundaries, the rules, the regulations, the laws, and almost to tell us what to do, what we should be doing. So self-authority, we start gaining that power back, and we can start asking, where have we given our power away? We will be more and more developing our inner authority, our sovereignty. And it's about being, again, authentic to us, not what we are told. And we'll have the ability to weigh it up. Does it align with us? And I'm not talking about just going and breaking all the rules and breaking the law, becoming outlaws. but about looking at where we've been conditioned into believing how we should be, how we should behave, the expectations also that are put on us by families, by society, customs, religions, cultures, even the countries. And we might have been repeating some of these all of our life. Now, this is when we really, truly, I've been saying it since Pluto went into Aquarius about being authentic. And this is another layer again where we're able to look at this and we have to ask ourselves, are they true to us? Do they resonate with our soul? Are they authentic with us? Are they authentic to us now, who we are now? Are they relevant for our future selves, the future that we want to step into? That being of higher service, our soul intentions. Do these energies resonate with that? And remember, just because something, it's always been done that way, how many times have we heard that? That puts an expectation on us to do things the same, not to break the rules, not to step outside, not to be different. And with families, one of the things that the expectations that are put on, especially within families and cultures quite often, can be shame and guilt. Don't shame the family if you do something different, if you step outside the lines. Be aware if any of that comes up. It's an indicator, if you become aware of it, that something is not authentic to you. It's what has been expected of you. And it's something that, obviously when we become aware of the energy, we can begin to release it. But just because something has always been done that way does not mean that it should continue to be that day, nor does it mean that it is the best way to do it. And we can create new customs which are more aligned with ourselves and the times, which is quite important. Now, if you just wanted to concentrate on one thing this year, one theme, I would say this fourth one, self-mastery. I always see that as like an umbrella term, if you like, because self-mastery is like an umbrella. The others almost fit in underneath it. We're talking about an overall thing, self-mastery. So becoming the best version of ourselves that we can be. And I use the term not just as mastering ourselves, knowing ourselves, mastery of ourselves, but also stepping into our mastery, our soul intentions. What we're good at, what are we good at? What are we passionate about? What are we good at? And mastery comes from wisdom, as I say, wisdom and knowledge together, bringing those, knowing ourselves, getting to know ourselves, the absolutely core energies of the Aries. Who am I? What is of value to me? Why am I here? But why am I here comes from knowing what resonates with us, knowing ourselves more and more deeply. So other energies that we might come across this year are the ones to bear in mind. Sort of outside of this umbrella of the Saturn and Neptune, although some overlap with it. Other sort of keywords: cohesion, alignment, community, oneness, not division. And what is not aligned cannot survive and will fall away. Dissolving untruths, revealing lies, deceit, illusions. So what I'm meaning by that is, as we step more and more into this higher vibrations, like for example, if we embrace more truth, the more truth we embrace, the less lies and deceit can exist in that energy. And I'm talking on a collective level here as well, as we embrace love, peace, honesty, truth ourselves, as that energy grows, it's like it's impossible for the denser energies to actually exist in that. They're naturally exposed, and some will spring to the surface and be revealed, and others will just literally fall away. The higher our vibration, lower energies just cannot exist within that. One thing that is going to be important to do, as I was saying about mind, body, spirit earlier on, the vibration needs to be raised in all three areas, all areas of our lives. It's really important that we cultivate a better relationship with our body, which is the vessel for our soul. And one thing to practice and cultivate, which is a word I seem to be using quite a bit here, is stillness, quiet. And the quiet also will give us the ability to better connect and attune to our wave band. And also, that's going to give the opportunity for better spiritual connection, because a lot of the time we want connection or better connection, but it's like, do we create the right environment for that? It can happen, but spirit can best reach us when we are in a quiet space. They can get through. Put yourselves in their shoes. Noise, the constant action and moving, Wi-Fi, multitasking that we do. If you were trying to talk to somebody, would you want to start that conversation? Would you find it easier to get through if they were doing all those things or if they were sitting quietly? Remember that the universe is increasingly responding to our vibration, not our action. And I kept getting this image of, or the word that was coming was the word resonance with regard to the vessel, the body, about things resonating and the resonance of our body and improving that vibration. It was almost like I was seeing the body as a tuning fork. And I work with tuning forks with sound healing. And they are a pure vibration, but at the same time, if you've done any work with that or sound, if something is got a dull energy, it doesn't ring or doesn't sound very well. But if we clear the energy, we would clear crystals, those of us that work with them, to cleanse and clear the energies from crystals, to return them to that pure vibration so that they can best work with us. We need to start thinking about our vessel, our body, like that as well, and just sure that we're clearing our energies better and having that pure vibration. And going back to energy about what was expected of us and customs and traditions, like when I posted on social media for Christmas Day, what I included was a very non-traditional picture. So I'd actually been out earlier that day and come to a particular point where it was coming down across and shining, reflecting on the water. And just in that moment, I felt that I had sort of all four elements there. And I used that as a picture that I shared. And what I actually put was that how this was an untraditional picture. And obviously, Christmas can be a time when family and traditions and customs energies can come to the fore with various expectations. So what I put was this, I deliberately used it as an untraditional picture, as a reminder to ourselves that customs and traditions don't have to be repeated simply because we've always done that in our family, culture, society, country, etc. One of the key energies of 2026 will be that of discerning what is right for us, what fits, what aligns with us, our soul, our values, our integrity, our inner knowing and intuition, and not just to blindly follow, give our power away to others, or just do what has always been done. Sums things up a little bit. So just to include potential pitfalls to look out for. Now, all key words, the key energies associated with the sign and the planets. There's positive expressions, there's not so positive ones. So what might trip us up? Now, if we go back to the newborn baby analogy, let's just remember that a newborn baby hasn't got all the answers. It's learning as it goes. And when that baby grows and is learning to stand and then trying to walk, it keeps going, getting better every time, stronger each time, until it nails it. It doesn't give up the first time that it falls down. And we must remember that this is uncharted territory for all of us. We will be learning as we go, learning through experience. And there is that element of Aries that they need to experience things. So they can quite often, in order to decide something, they might actually just dive in and do something to try it out and see if it fits. Being in it, diving in, experiencing it, that can be the way that they learn about something and find out if it's the right thing to do. So you fall into less positive expressions, don't beat yourself up. Tick it off as something that you tried, it didn't work out, so you can try again or try something else. It's an experience and it adds to the knowledge and therefore the wisdom to move forward. Self-mastery, it's time to engage the mind and find the wisdom of that experience to inform the next attempt. So we employ the self-mastery, they find that wisdom, and how can we move forward next time. And another thing we can do is return to our core, return to our center, and see if something resonates with us. Being in the present and allowing energies to quickly move through is the Aries feature again. So remember, it doesn't hold on to things. So again, don't beat yourself up if these come up. Bring yourself back to the present and let them go quickly. So these are potential pitfalls that the Aries can, in particular, can bring up. Impatience, anger, excess speed, burning out, not looking before we leap, or doing battle. And if we do react quickly or harshly, often that can be defensively. Again, just bring ourselves back to the moment and employ mindfulness. Breathe in, breathe out, repeat, restore the inner equilibrium. And again, I will refer you back to the walk for peace and the simple breathing exercises that have been shown there and how they can help us to find inner peace through the breath. It is a very simple technique, but it is very important and very effective. And those of you that do Reiki, think about the Reiki principles just for today. Just for today. If we do find getting caught in the not so good expressions, if we return to the breath, center ourselves, when we do feel calmer, that's the opportunity then to seek out the root of our reaction. Why did we react that way? Aries has got very much, I use the phrase primal instinct. So we can very much have that survival, fight or flight, which can be heavily programmed into us. So there's usually a layer of fear there underneath this. Discovering what that fear is again can gives us information to clear and to work towards not repeating in the future. There is a degree of the simplicity and the truth, and that fast acting energy of Aries can be something comes into the mind. It can no sooner be thought than it's out through the mouth. So there's a directness with it, and it's almost like this is how it is. There's no frills or dressing something up. Language can be very simple and very straight, but that come across sometimes too direct. And if we employ the diplomacy of Libra that I was talking about before, and also Neptune bringing in the kindness and compassion and empathy side of it, we can then learn to speak our truth, but with kindness. And just as it's come straight into my head, crystal that helps with that is blue lace agate. And another thing that might trip us up is the unhealthy masculine traits. And we do need feminine energy, more feminine energy in the world for sure. But the masculine does not need to be eradicated. And there is also such a thing as being too feminine, too passive, for example. So positive assertion, clear boundaries, being non-reactive and non-aggressive, but sure and certain of what our boundaries and values are a sort of combination of the masculine and feminine. And I can remember the precise details, so I apologise. A few years ago, there were the native Canadian women, I believe they were, that were peacefully resisting big business, energy, pipe work, the pipes coming in, I think, across the land. I think I've got that right. So they were faced with this very masculine energy of the big business and the domination. We are going to do this. We need to do this and go over the land. If you see them, they were coming up to the lines that the Canadian women were holding, and they were coming up with a big energy, trying to dominate and to sowing fear, really. And they just stood their ground, and they never once rose to it. All they did was they stood peacefully. They spoke peacefully. They answered peacefully. That is a very feminine way of stopping something. With this masculine and feminine, what obviously aiming for all of us is a divine masculine and a divine feminine expression. So let's just have a brief recap of the key energies, the key themes of 2026. There's a lot going on, and the second half of the year will be different. But for now, if you just want to keep it simple, just concentrate on these themes: self-mastery, self-authority, inner truth, and inner knowing. Discerning what is right for you, what fits, what aligns with you, your soul, your values, your integrity, your inner knowing and intuition, and not just to blindly follow, give your power away to others, or just do what has always been done. Take small, consistent actions, follow your passions, and allow the energies to build over time incrementally. Be true to you. Step onward, onto, and forwards on your highest path and into your soul mission